Check 1, 2. As I was setting up for this podcast, I was thinking about the Netflix trend that's on social media right now where like people are sitting down in a chair and like putting their microphone on and like it's like they're setting up to do a documentary on Netflix, but it's about something like so ridiculous. I'm loving seeing these. I'm gonna have to make one. But hi, welcome into another episode of the Inside Voice podcast. I am so glad you are here. We are in season 3 of the Inside Voice podcast, just a couple of episodes in. We always like to start off our episodes with some good news, and this is kind of personal good news that I want to share with you, just an experience that I had that hopefully will inspire you to have a similar experience. My husband and I took our dog Oliver to the beach, and it was everything that I hoped it would be. So we don't live near the beach currently, and I just got to thinking, like, there's a lot that my dog has experienced, but I don't know, just something about how much my husband and I love the beach, how, like, therapeutic the beach is, and really, like, honestly, my dog is 10 years old, and I've been thinking a lot about stimulation of his brain, like novelty for him. And I know I'm overcomplicating and overthinking having a dog, but I'll be honest with you, like we don't have children. This is our one chance to like do it right, okay? We don't have kids, and this is our chance to create summer memories as well with our dog. And so, yeah, just thinking about him being 10 years old, thinking about the fact that like his breadth of the world, like his version of the world is like so small and compact. It's literally like our house and our neighborhood and like some other places that we go to on a regular basis. So I thought, you know what? Let's give him some different sights, some different sounds, different feelings, smells, all that stuff. And so we drove to the beach. Now, what I want to encourage you with this is the thing that I want to encourage you with is whatever it is that you want to do, if there's something that you've had on your bucket list, something that you've been thinking about, something you're like, I really want to do that, but it'd be nice if, but just do it. Like, this is something that I came up with 2 years ago, actually. And initially, when we were going to do this, something came up in our family that kept us from making this trip. And it just got put on the back burner, put on the back burner, put on the back burner. And finally, my husband's like, we just need to do it. Now he wanted to do like a bigger trip with like our trailer and like stay for a couple of days. And I was like, that's too much. Our dog might hate it because he's not much of a water dog. He doesn't swim in swimming pools and he's not like going out on the lake or anything like that. So I was like, he might hate it. And, we don't have time to do a giant trip. And so we just decided that we were going to do a little day trip. Like, and I say day, like we spent the night, 5 hours down to the beach, spent the night, 5 hours back. It was my crazy idea. So I drove the entire thing. And it was so much fun. Like now I know that we can do a bigger trip with the trailer and it'd be better. We know what we're getting into, but ultimately, like it was one of those things that like we just had to put it on the calendar and just do it. Was it the ideal weekend to do it? No, it just happened to be a weekend that we didn't have anything. But like we're stacking it in between like other trips and company and family and responsibilities and like all this other stuff. But it was like, you know what? This is our chance. And if we keep waiting, we might miss our opportunity to do it. So we just jumped on it. All that to say, there's something that you've been putting on the back burner for far too long. You need to jump on it and just make it happen. It may not be the most ideal time. It may not be the perfect, fitting into the schedule. But if it's important to you, like you will find a way to make it happen. So, and just seeing my dog like walk out into the water. I mean, he took a wave to the face and was just such a champ, was like, okay, I'm still going to do it. I was so afraid of him walking out into the water. And like, as soon as he touched it, he was like, I'm out, but he actually, got in the water. We ran up and down the beach. We sunbathed. We did all the things. He also wasn't like trying to get into everybody's business. My dog is he's curious, George. Like he wants to smell everything. He wants to see what you're eating. He wants to be in your face. He wants the pets. He wants the snuggles. Like he's a social dog like that, but he was so chill. He just stayed on our blanket. Like it was It was great. Could not ask for a better experience. So, but even if it was a bad experience, I still would have been glad that we did it because it was something that was on the bucket list. So let that be some encouragement to you. Do the thing. All right. This week, we are getting underway with a new series that honestly, I think I need to hear just as much as everybody else needs to hear, because even putting this together, even dreaming up with this, what this next series is going to be, I was second guessing myself and doubting myself. And this series we're going to call You're Lying to Yourself. And it's all about the thoughts that we allow to come into our mind that are holding us back. Negative thoughts, self-doubt, things that we just allow to ruminate within our mind way too much, way too often. And honestly, it's taking over our lives. It's causing us to not do the things that we want to do. It's causing us to second guess ourselves, to hold ourselves back, to just drift through life rather than living life and experiencing life. And I don't know about you, but like lately, I've just been thinking a lot about we're not going to be here forever. You know, I don't know if it's like a residual COVID thing. I don't know if it's just the fact that the world is like cray cray, but honestly, it's just we're not here forever. You know, everybody says like nobody gets out of life alive. Death rate is 100%, you know, like you will leave this earth one day. And I don't say that to scare you. I say that for you to think about like, how are you living day to day? You know, and ultimately these negative thoughts, these things that tell us that we're not good enough, that we're too late, that it's never going to happen. Like all that's doing is making us waste our time on this earth. Another way that people like to look at time on this earth is we get like 75 summers. I mean, I've lived like almost half of those already. That kind of freaks me out a little bit, I'll be honest with you. But ultimately, we've got to be really careful about what we allow to come into our mind. We also have to be really careful of what we allow to stay. And oftentimes it is so difficult for us to kick those thoughts out of our mind because there's so many ways to support those thoughts. You know what I mean? Like deception, we hear about that a lot. Like deception is a thing. And deception, I believe, is at an all-time high right now. However, so is confirmation. It used to be like you could dispel and disprove and demystify, demystify? Debunk. I was trying to say like demyth something. And it just came out weird. We can debunk things. You know, it used to be that we could do that a little more easily. Now it's like, yeah, we have more resources that allow us to debunk things. But at the same time, we also have a lot of things that will confirm whatever it is that we decide to believe. That is called confirmation bias. I had to look this up because I think that there are assumptions of what I think this means, and then there's what it actually means. Confirmation bias means that we favor, recall, or search for things to confirm what we believe is true. We look for evidence to support the things that we are biased on, the things that we think about, the things that we believe, the things that we have an opinion on. We are looking for those things. And this works for opinions, but I will tell you right now, it also works for lies. It works for the things that you get into your mind. And now suddenly, you know, the thought that you had about yourself, maybe you believe that you allowed a thought into your mind. Let's back up. You allowed a thought into your mind that told you you're not good enough, AKA you're worthless. It was just a fleeting thought, you know, you didn't have to believe it. You didn't have to confirm it with anything. You didn't even have to allow it to stay for more than 0.5 seconds. You could have had that thought of saying you're worthless, you'll never amount to anything come into your mind, and you went, get out, you know, sweep it away, move on to the next thought. But instead, you allowed it to stay a little bit longer. And now you're scrolling on social media and you're hearing all these people say things like, you're not this, you're just this. You're not wrong, you've just never been taught. You've been believing this for so long, but actually this is what you should believe. You've thought this about yourself, but really it's this. This is wrong with you. Let me show you how to fix it. You feel this way about yourself. I've got the solution for that. You have all of these things, and maybe it's not the direct messaging. Like maybe you're not following accounts that are actually saying you're worthless. You're not following these accounts that are saying you're a terrible person. You're just following these accounts that maybe you were inspired by at one point, but now they're just telling you all those things that are starting to make you feel like maybe you are worthless because your hair is flat, because your foundation doesn't sit right, because you get a little greasy at the end of the day, like a lot of beauty things. Or maybe it's you have no motivation to work out and that means something about you. It could be, you just scroll upon and you're scrolling and you come upon somebody that you love, like a friend or a family member, and they're on vacation with their kids, and you're thinking, well, I never go on vacation with my kids. We never go anywhere. We never do anything. Wow, I'm a bad parent. I am worthless. Do you see how it all kind of spirals? It's that confirmation bias. And I'm telling you, like, there are things that might come into your mind that you start thinking about, and suddenly everything on your explore page, everything on your for you page is confirming that. And we've talked about this before. You have to be really careful of what you allow to be your Bible, essentially. As a Christian, like, we read the Bible, God, that's his word. He esteems it higher than himself. The word is it's truth, it's what we should be living by. And the Bible's so interesting to me because it's the only thing that is the past, the present, and the future. You know what I mean? Like, this is a forever text that is a constant, like it's such anyway, we can go down that tangent one day of the Bible. I'm reading through the entire thing this year, but essentially we can make other things our Bible. We can make other things our truth, and social media has a way of just slipping in and becoming that. You know what I mean? I've got friends and family members and people in my past that, they could be going through something really difficult, a life-altering situation, a life-altering decision that they have to make. And man, it's like everything that comes up on that social media page has to do with that thing. You know what I mean? I remember after my mom passed away, it was like I was going through grief. I was going through depression. I was going through anxiety. I was going through so many things. And at one point I had to like stop getting on social media because everything had something to do with that. Everything had something to do with dark seasons. Here's the fix. Here's how you get out of it, and because, your phone listens to you, so then it's like coming up with all this stuff and showing it to you on social media. But also I think the one time that you spend an extra second on a piece of content, social media picks up on that and they're like, we're going to show them more. And it can be really, you can go into this downward spiral of finding all these things that are trying to tell you how to think about what happened to you, or tell you how to think about yourself or about your life or about the decisions that you've made. Like it's crazy, and it happens so quickly, and it's hard to pull yourself out of that. So more and more I feel like these days, talking about negative thoughts, talking about negative feelings, talking about the things that we allow into our mind, it's so important now, again, because it's not just the lie that comes into your mind, it's everything else that starts to confirm it around you. And social media can be such an advocate for this, and your friends can be well-meaning and they can be an advocate for that, and what you watch on TV can be an advocate for that as well. I mean, there's so many things that can just push a narrative on you, and it should have never been the narrative in the first place, because again, it was a thought that you allowed into your mind, and then you allowed it to take root. And then that confirmation bias just starts coming in. So we've really got to be vigilant these days what we're thinking about. Like, we really have to think about what we're thinking about. And, there's so much in the Bible that talks about meditating on God's word, rehearsing things, writing things on your heart, which I think is such a beautiful way of meditation, and rehearsing and ruminating on things that are good. You know what I mean? Like, that's such a beautiful way of like, put this into your brain and do not forget it. And then of course in the Bible in Romans, it talks about not conforming to the patterns of this world, but being transformed by the renewing of your mind. And I was listening to a sermon the other day that talked about this. And, I've heard that verse so many times. And I'm like, yeah, of course, renew your mind, renew your mind, renew your mind. But the word is renewing. It's a continuous action. It's not a one and done. It's not, okay, you renewed your mind, now you're good forever. No, like every single day we have to be renewing our mind. And then it gets in, I think about like the armor of God. Like this is a part of it. Like every day we have to be putting on this armor. We have to be preparing ourselves for the mess that is going to come at us every single day, the junk that's going to get into our mind every single day. So it is a continual action of renewing your mind. And the rest of that verse says, then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is. In the Bible, it talks about setting your mind on things above, seeking God's kingdom first. I think that's a part of the renewing process, is just checking yourself, checking yourself before you wreck yourself. And if you can renew your mind, if you can set your mind on things above, then when this stuff comes at you, when these lies and when these opinions and when these things that you see on social media or the things that you see online or in the media start coming at you, then you'll be able to test those things and be like, no, that's not true. No, that's not what God says. No, that's not God's nature. No, that's not who I am. No. I know truth, and that ain't it. Like we really have to check ourselves and check what's going into our mind before it completely derails us. I believe that thoughts can be really dangerous because your thoughts can become your feelings. And your feelings, those are strong. You know what I mean? Your feelings can ultimately, if you are consistently practicing them, they can become your mood. And your mood starts to affect everything else. Your mood affects your actions. It affects your decisions. It affects the way that you treat people. It really starts to mess with your entire life. So you've got to be really, really careful about the thoughts. There's a big emphasis on what you are actually thinking about. So be careful with that stuff, and decipher like, okay, I'm having this feeling, but this feeling I really think came from a thought. Your mood, you might be feeling a little down and depressed. Well, that's because you're feeling a certain way. Well, that feeling came from a thought. So was that thought actually true? Like sometimes you just have to dissect it a little bit more, not sit in it and not wallow in whatever feeling that you have. Like, let's get to the root cause of where that stuff came from in the first place. And honestly, this is something that is on you. You have to be able to do this. I don't know about you. If you're like me, you might have been in a bad mood and like nothing is going to pull you out of that mood. Absolutely nothing. It doesn't matter how sweet your husband is to you. It doesn't matter how good the meal is that you ate. It doesn't matter if you get kudos from your boss. It doesn't matter if the sun is shining. Like, you're not coming out of that mood. You have to be the one that fixes it. You have to be the one that, looks yourself in the mirror and goes, what's going on? Let's have a chat, because you're being ridiculous right now. Your mood is a little insane, Where did it come from? What feeling brought this on? And what thought sparked that feeling? And is that thought actually real? 9 times out of 10, the thought is not real. It is a perception, or it is an opinion, or it is a fleeting thing that you just decided to latch onto. I think about the analogy of like your thoughts. Okay, your brain is a train station. You walk into this train station and there are trains everywhere. The trains are thoughts. The trains are coming into the station and they're leaving the station. They're coming into the station, they're leaving the station. And they're everywhere, right? They're here, they're there, they're left, they're right, they're up, they're down. There's trains everywhere. You can decide which train you get on. Doesn't have to be the first one. Doesn't have to be the second one. Doesn't have to be the one that's going north. Doesn't have to be the one that's going south. You decide which train you're going to get onto. So as those thoughts are coming into the station, as those thoughts are coming into your brain, you can decide that train's not for me. that train is going someplace I don't want to go. So I ain't going to get on it. I'm going to stay on this platform until there's a train that is actually going to take me to the destination that I want to go to. This is not you living in denial. This is you being strategic about your travel plans. This is you being strategic about your life. Where do you want to go? Where do you ultimately want to end up? Where is God leading you? Where's the path that you're supposed to be taking in your life going? Get on those trains. Otherwise, you're going to end up in a bunch of places that you never wanted to be in the first place. You know what I mean? Be very, very careful of what comes into the station and what you decide to board and then ride for life. Okay. So that's the train analogy that I love. Also, we've talked about this before. I find myself following more psychologists on social media, especially ones that like apply things to scripture, because it's fascinating to me. But like the brain, my gosh, our brains are incredible. Like God knew what he was doing when he made our brains. They are powerful, they are strong, they are, they're fascinating. And ultimately your brain is a muscle, your brain works the way you work it. Your brain takes input and you decide if the input is good or not based on whether or not you ruminate it or not. And then your brain decides, okay, this is how we operate. So then it becomes just the way that your brain continues to work. Neuroplasticity. This is where this is neuroplasticity, what I'm explaining to you. Essentially, what happens is your brain takes in information, but your brain is not going to decide whether or not it is real or not. So the thoughts that come into your mind, the information that you bring into your mind, it is on you to determine whether or not that is real or not. It is on you to tell your brain, this is fact, this is not fact. This is truth, this is not truth. Because your brain, ultimately, whatever you feed it, whatever thought you have, if you continue to ruminate on it, your brain adapts to that. Your brain goes, oh, okay, this is a thought that is important because we keep thinking it, right? We keep ruminating on it. So how do we create a path to get to that thought faster? Your brain wants the path of least resistance, and your brain will create that path. That's what's so crazy about this. Now, before that freaks you out, because honestly, the first time I heard that, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to break my brain. Like all these negative thoughts that I have, I'm creating all these pathways, all these neural pathways that now my brain is operating on, and now I'm stuck like this forever. No. That would be another negative thought that we are latching onto, and we do not need to latch onto that thought. The same works in the opposite direction. You can feed your brain truth, aka renew your mind, and your brain will start to create pathways to get to those thoughts faster. This is why your brain is a muscle. You know what I mean? Like you can build it, you can strengthen it. And it's so important that we do that, This is more than just positive thinking. This is more than just the frou-frou of, oh, at least this didn't happen, or look on the bright side. Have you ever been going through something really hard in your life and somebody brings that along? Well, at least this didn't happen. Maybe you stubbed your toe and your toe really hurts, and people are like, well, at least you didn't, break your neck. It's like, great. Or maybe you're going through something that is like really, really hard and really, really traumatic, and somebody's like, well, at least it's not raining today. Okay, that doesn't help, Yeah, you can go down that path and you can find some wonderful things to make you feel better in that moment if you need to. Like, go for it. If you need to reach for that, go for it. If it feels like the world is collapsing around you, but man, you've got a great cup of matcha in front of you, dive into the matcha. Like, it's okay to do that. But ultimately, it is so much bigger than that. It is bigger than this positive thinking. Like, we're talking about battling. We're talking about the battle that is going on inside of our mind constantly. And if your brain is trying to create these pathways, you need to be very careful of what pathways are being created, because you're either going to strengthen your brain with positive stuff, with truth, with stuff that leaves you feeling motivated and disciplined and strong and confident, or you're going to fill it with all of this stuff that's going to make your brain create these pathways that make you weak and that make you inconsistent and undisciplined and feeling low all the time. That's what matters here. I mean, like, you have a brain that is going to, it's going to optimize whatever you give it. You know what I mean? So give it good, give it truth, give it things that it can latch onto that are going to serve you in the long run. I think about like spiritual warfare, you know, and I think oftentimes we think of that as like, you know, if you're a Christian, you know this, like there are spiritual forces at work all the time. You know, you've got angels and demons that are fighting all the time. They're fighting for you. They're fighting for your soul. We can get into that in another podcast. But I think a lot of times, if you know what I'm talking about, we think of spiritual warfare as stuff that's happening out there. But I'm telling you right now, spiritual warfare is also happening within your mind. The enemy loves to lie to you. He loves to give you junk that makes you feel less than, inadequate. Actually, he also loves to give you junk that makes you feel like, I'm okay, I don't really have to try. Things are good. I don't need to rock the boat. When maybe God is calling you to something greater that is going to take courage, that is going to take discipline, that is going to take a whole nother level of you that can be frightening. But dang it, that's what he has for you. Don't you want that? You know what I mean? But the enemy may lie to you and tell you, that's a little too much. That's a little scary. I don't know. Did God really say that? Do you really think you should be doing that? Maybe not. You know, those are lies too. And I think that the negative thoughts that we hold on to are just the enemy and the demons and the darkness trying to take over us. And I don't know about you, but that is something that really freaks me out. That is something that really matters to me. You know, I don't want that to win. I don't want that negative darkness to take over. I think about my mom, and maybe this is why I'm so incredibly passionate about it, is like my mom, you know, ultimately, you know, she took her own life, which means, in my humble opinion, from the outside looking in, I'm not diagnosing her and I'm not assuming anything about anybody who's been in that position, but I can't help but think that there were so many negative thoughts in her mind. There were so many negative neural pathways that had been created in her mind that were just easy for her to get into those negative thoughts, that one day it's just like that became her truth. And ultimately, the darkness won. And I hate that. I hate that for my mom. I hate that for my family, my brothers. I hate that for myself because I feel like we didn't get to experience the life that we could have experienced together, her and I. And, you know, I hate that for anybody else that's going through hard times. I think that's why we have to be very, very careful of what goes into our brain. And it matters so much more than I think we give it credit. You know, I think I'm thinking about like when I first started this podcast, and God bless my mom, but I remember she made a comment about it that really sat with me for a while. And, you know, ultimately it was like, it was like, she called it like a Kardashian podcast. She called it like essentially just calling it like a frou-frou positive thinking podcast. And that really messed with me because it made it feel like my podcast wasn't meaningful. It wasn't well thought out. There was no passion in it. It was just like, go be happy, blah, 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 you know, live your best life, dream your dreams, blah, blah, don't let your dreams be dreams, you know, and that, again, like that just sat with me. But it's so much more than that. It's so much more than just this positive thinking. And I think oftentimes this idea of training your brain to seek out truth gets written off as, you know, and this is a lie, it gets written off as like this stupid stuff, this hippie stuff. And it's like, no, this is real. This is real stuff that can mess with you so much to the point that you end up doing what my mom did. So this matters to me. This should matter to you as well. The stuff that you're allowing in and the stuff that you're allowing to take root ultimately is going to determine where you end up in life in the long run. So no, this isn't just look on the bright side theology. This is arming yourself with truth, reminding yourself of what truth is. This is training yourself not to fall captive to lies and to negativity that is going to lead you to a dark place. This is working your mind to be strong. And as somebody that, I work out in the gym, I lift heavy, like I enjoy that. There are times when I'm in that gym and I think about myself like this isn't just a physical workout that I'm doing. This is a mental workout that I'm doing, because I'm going to go out into the world as a soldier in God's army, and I want to make sure that I am fit for battle. Now, I know that sounds a little over the top, and for those of you that are not Christians, that don't know Jesus, you're probably thinking like, that's a little weird. But again, like every day is a battlefield. Every day is a battlefield for your attention, for your devotion, for your mentality, for your well-being. Every day is a battle. And I don't know about you, but I want to be ready for the battle. I want to be strong. I want to know what truth is. I want to know what matters in life. I want to prioritize the right things. I want to step into my calling. I want to chase after what God has for me. Like, I want to do all those things. And ultimately, it starts in the mind. It starts with what I'm allowing myself to ruminate on a daily basis. And I'm telling you, there are things that I think about that are so stupid, so negative, and so wrong, and so like not true, that it flabbergasts me that I allow this stuff to get into my brain. And so as we move forward, I want you to really take stock of what you're thinking about. If I were to give you homework this week before we dive into the next couple of weeks, ultimately, I want you to write down the things that you are believing that are not true. I want you to write down the things that you're thinking about that you're like, oh, that's actually really negative. Write it down, okay? I have a feeling that we are all thinking some lies that are pretty collective. We're believing similar lies here. And so what I want to do is I want to deconstruct those lies. I want to get back to like where those lies came from in the first place. So that way we can stop believing them and start feeding ourselves actual truth. So we can start moving forward in life in a way that is meaningful, in a way that we were meant to live. Last week, we talked about our halftime, right? Halftime in the year and preparing ourselves for what's next in the year, revisiting our goals. And I'm sure there were a lot of thoughts that you had about yourself that as you were going through those goals, you were thinking, wow, I should be a lot further now. Wow, I really failed here. Wow, I can't believe I thought that I could do this. Like, you probably started thinking some negative thoughts just based on the progress or lack of progress that you've made with your goals so far in 2026. That's why I believe there's no better time than for us to sit down right now and start getting these things out of our minds so we can start focusing on the stuff that actually matters. If we can set our mind on things above, if we can focus on things that are true, that's going to build our confidence. That's going to build our discipline. That's going to build our resistance and our resilience in this life. And honestly, that's what we need. Whether we're chasing a big dream or not, we need that day to day. Because again, this is a battlefield. You've got a battlefield going on in your mind, and we need to show up prepared. We need to show up knowing the lies and the weapons that are going to be used against us. And we need to know how to make sure that they do not prevail against us, okay? So for the next couple of weeks, we're going to be diving into some of the biggest lies that we tell ourselves, the biggest lies that we believe, the biggest lies that we just think about constantly. Maybe we know they're not true, but for whatever reason, they are still just in our mind way more than they need to be. So please, this week, write down the things that you're saying in your mind, saying to yourself that are negative, that you know are not true. Maybe some things that you're just like, that's a strange thought. I wonder where that came from. Write it down, okay? And we're going to start unpacking them. We're going to start dismantling them next week as we get into our You're Lying to Yourself series. So please join me next week. Join me for the next couple weeks as well. And let's start actually like doing better by ourselves. You know what I mean? Like let's start caring for ourselves in a new way by dismantling this stuff. Let's start caring for ourselves in a healthy mental way so we can live a life that is just more vibrant and beautiful and wonderful and exactly what God has in store for us, you know? Because his plans for us are good, you know? He has plans that will prosper us and give us a future and a hope, you know what I mean? And man, gosh, those plans, they start with like our mind, really and truly. Okay. So again, your homework this week, write down the things that are negative, and we'll dive in next week. You ready for it? I'll see you next week.